Good evening, everyone. I'm Jamila Mizik. Attorney General Senator Carl Bethel seeking to clarify the Bahamas being one of 23 jurisdictions the EU College of Commissioners recently cited as having strategic deficiencies in its country's anti-money laundering and counter-terrorist financing frameworks. Shunning the term blacklisting, the AG says the EU's listing is simply an advisory similar to that issued by the US's Financial Intelligence Agency and the United Kingdom's Treasury Department. That aside, the AG reiterated the Bahamas' objection to being listed.
This bill, we are advised, will make it more likely, very likely in fact, that the Code of Conduct Group will recommend to the European Council of Ministers that the Bahamas is compliant with the BEPS initiative and that the Bahamas ought not to be blacklisted.
The AG says legal grounds will be taken up with the EU as he feels the Bahamas is being targeted. However, he assures that the government does have a plan. Meantime, the EU's Justice Commissioner says the Commission stands ready to work closely with these countries to address the issues. A former Attorney General is meantime cautioning the government in the face of the punitive action the EU has taken against the Bahamas. Queen's Counsel Alfred says advises against rushing off to Brussels in a panic to make ill-considered appeasements and secret agreements. Instead, he suggests the Minutes administration assess the nature of the problem, weigh policy options, geostrategic factors, and lay out a rational policy response that's backed up by empirical data and the best technical advice. That response, he reasoned, should detail how the government will secure the short, medium, and long-term national interests of the country with respect to the European Union's moving goalposts when it comes to the Bahamas' anti-money laundering and countering financing of terrorism, or AML-CFT regime, and tax policies. Speaking from experience, the former AG led the team who succeeded in getting the Bahamas removed from the monitoring list of the FATF in 2005. Mr. Sayers says while he appreciates this is a complex matter, short-term panic-driven acts of appeasement will not produce a permanent resolution. The European Commission this past Wednesday cited 7 strategic deficiencies with the Bahamas' AML-CFT regime. Mr. Sayers recommends the government immediately address those in order to avoid any further hostile actions being taken against the Bahamas. And he believes doing so includes engaging an advisory services team of local and international multidisciplinary group, forming an advisory police group, and coordinating collaboration amongst the various regulatory agencies in the financial services sector to prepare a technical brief for cabinet's review and determination. In the medium and long term, he makes a list of proposals, among them that the Bahamas should, with the support of CARICOM, initiate and lead an international lobby for the convening of a global forum calling for the formation of a United Nations treaty to cover issues of money laundering, terrorist financing, and unfair tax competition. Well, as expected, senators met today for a brief debate on the Commercial Entities Substance Requirements Amendment Bill, a critical piece of legislation if the Bahamas is to avoid having its name sullied. The government stresses that while the amendment bill follows discussions with the EU, it was directly drafted by the private sector.
I am somewhat concerned that the opposition forces seem to be seeking to use their posture in Parliament by boycotting it as some point of leverage to forestall or intimidate the government and to intimidate particularly the prosecution services of this country. This is absolutely unacceptable in a civilized democracy. If there are legal disputes in the courts, they are fought in the courts.
Here's how the process works.
If I, as Attorney General, wish to give an order to the director under the Constitution, it must be defensible in law, clear, transparent, in writing, and gazetted. And so all I have to say is I trust that the Bahamian people can see politics being played when politics is being played. Let justice be done, though the heavens fall.
The amended bill was passed without the opposition's input, this considering its decision to boycott Parliament, which the AG finds unacceptable. The senator says the Office of the Director of Public Prosecutions was created for instances like this. The boycott stems from the arrest and subsequent charge of alleged PLP supporters, former Deputy Director of Urban Renewal Michelle Rackley, Stephanie Colley, Kylon Vincent, and Christopher Simonet. The group was arraigned on a litany of fraud and money laundering charges. They were released on $9,000 bail with sureties. Also weighing in on the boycott today was Christian Council President Bishop Delton Fernander, who says he would have done things differently.
Myself as a citizen, looking at the opposition, I would have walked up that day, but I wouldn't withhold from being in Parliament. A lot of things can happen that we will not be aware of if there's not an effective opposition.
Bishop Fernander says the opposition's parliamentary caucus should have their voices heard.
Let the Speaker put you out. Let the system take its course, but you stand on that place that we elected those opposition people to go in and represent us and challenge some of these laws and challenge some of these positions. When I understand what they're doing, I don't agree that they should stay out. I agree they walked out on principle, but get put out next time.
Meantime, leader of opposition business in the Senate, Fred Mitchell, says PLPs won't return to Parliament until they've gotten the desired results. You're watching JCN News. Stay with us.
This segment of the news was brought to you by Alive.